welcome to Blacklace and Bones,
where we talk about everything that's a little bit spooky, kooky, and a little bit creepy,
with a mix of cutesy.
On today's episode, we are going to be talking about our very own personal ghost sightings.
So bear in mind, I see more figures than Shan does, while Shan gets more
symbols
in that aspect.
Which I will go into more detail at some point, but you can kick us off because you have a lot more to tell.
Yes, so in our first episode we were talking about being the scare actors. In one of our places, it was a very haunted place, and where obviously we had customers coming in and out, I didn't think of anything of it, because sometimes also customers come in wearing costumes. At first I was just sitting on the floor, waiting, because it was a bit of a brief period. Sit down, have a little bit of a drink, just relax the voice. And then all of a sudden I see almost like someone in this military uniform coming around the corner. So in the previous episode when Shan said about she was in the room beforehand, it was like that room and mine, it was like it was coming around the corner. And I obviously went straight into character, but it just disappeared. And I was like, oh, okay, makes sense. And I never thought twice about it because I grew up seeing things. I was a very young age when I started seeing things like that. So I never thought twice about seeing things like that. But it does freak me out a little bit sometimes. Especially when you're working.
Yeah, I mean, for me it is more symbols. I don't exactly see. But, for example, I can smell, or I can kind of feel as well. One of our weirdest stories is my nan. When she passed away, my mother moved all of her belongings into our house. Literally everything. Sofas, antiques, the entire lot. So a lot of personal value.
Yeah.
And there was this one clock that had been brought into the house, and it never worked. It was just kept as a display antique, basically.
Yeah.
Never worked, not once. But then straight after my nan's funeral had happened, the clock then started chiming. And to make it worse, it wouldn't chime on the hour or the quarter or the half hour. It would chime at random times. It could be 20 past 1 and it would just randomly start going off. Which was weird because the clock hadn't worked in years.
Yeah, things like that I don't know what would be worse, seeing or getting the symbols and just getting random noises suddenly out of nowhere.
For me, I think it's because obviously I'm accustomed to obviously symbols, but for me obviously I don't actually see anything. I do see shadows, the split, you think everyone kind of gets it, where you think you see something there and you turn and it's not there, but it's like a shadow that's in your peripheral vision.
Yeah.
Obviously I do get that a lot of the time.
I get that.
But the other thing is smells, especially if it was someone I knew. I would get this random smell come through straight past me. It was especially after my grandparents had passed, I would then randomly just start to get that smell just waft over my nose out of nowhere. A smell I obviously recognized.
Yeah.
I'm just where is that coming from? But it's just really random, and then you get some other random smells, some less pleasant than others.
Yeah, I do get that.
But you'll just suddenly I don't know, smell flowers, and in this household we can't keep a plant alive, so all of our plants are fake plants and things like that for complete decor purposes. So the fact that I'm smelling flowers, I'm just what's going on?
What's going on? My earliest memory of something going on to just seeing things, my earliest memory was about when I was 6, 7, and yeah, my earliest memory was I was sitting in bed, you know, watching the old DVD players, like the little pink one that you flip up. And I look up, and in the doorway there is a hunched man in a hospital gown. And I obviously, like, I start crying. I have no idea who this man was. This is like at my nan's house when I was living at my nan's. I have no idea who the guy was or anything else. So my mum then came running in. She was like, oh, what's going on? What's going on? And I'm like, there's a man. And then my mum was going through photos, and I pointed out this person, and this is my granddad. Like, this is my great granddad. And I was like, that's him. And no clue who he was. He was my granddad Charlie. And no clue who he was, nothing. And my mum was like, oh yeah, he went to hospital because of back surgery. And he was actually not coming to see me, he was coming to see my mum. Which is insane, because a 7-year-old wouldn't know someone that had died way before I was even born.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have known the back surgery, I wouldn't know anything like that. And my mum was just shocked, and it was nice and comforting because at least, like, my granddad came to see me, but at the same time, I'm a 7-year-old child. I don't know what I'm doing. But yeah, and that was like the earliest memory, and it's obviously stuck with me in a nice way now. Like, it's very comforting to, like, know that my family's there, still watching over us, but it was very daunting as a young child that was just watching Harry Potter on their little DVD player.
Yeah. No, like, obviously, as I said, I don't tend to really see things, but, like, I do get dreams.
Yes.
Which is quite interesting, which is, I'll randomly have dreams, and a person who's passed will pop into it. And it's not a case of an imagination where you can sit and have a conversation. It was, they would kind of appear in the dream, something would kind of go past your vision in the dream, and then they were gone.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what is that? I don't get that. Like, what is happening, kind of thing. It's happened quite a few times, but it's just always, you can never talk to them either. Like, no. in a dream, I've not been able to personally. It's just they've been there 1 second, suddenly something's gone across my vision, and the next day gone, and I'm just like, okay, hello, goodbye.
Yeah, literally, it's upsetting because, like, even, like, for me to see him as, like, the figure, I can't talk to him. There's, like, this, like, it's almost like a language barrier. Like, it's stuck. Like, the voice in me is stuck, and I can't talk to them, and I can't, it's like I go deaf almost, because I can't hear anything around. It's like I'm in, like, a different plane at that point.
Yeah.
And it's very scary, and especially when you're, like, for me, when I'm walking home, and I'm like, is this an actual ghost, or is this a person? Like, am I just seeing things, or is this like, what is it? Like, I don't know what I can't tell half the time.
Yeah, it is, it is kind of, it's very kind of mind altering, and it obviously, it does make you question a lot of things, like, especially when you can't explain it to other people. You're just like, well, I can't really talk about it because you're gonna suddenly look at me in a completely different light, and probably not a good one.
Yeah, I was, because I didn't understand that not actually anyone, like, near the massive population can see ghosts. So as a young kid, I would tell my peers about it when I was, like, in school, and I would get bullied because of it, because they didn't realise anything else. And a lot of them have come out and apologised to me. So whether or not they had their own happen, I don't know. But, like, it's a weird thing, and also to just be bullied for something that you can't control is hard.
Yeah, I think, like, I had a recent experience, like, a couple of days ago, which I told you about. Basically, like, a series of events started to kind of randomly start to happen. Obviously, my room is quite a sacred space to me, People don't really come in and out of this room unless they kind of really have to, because obviously I'm a bit of a collector, so I have quite a few priceless replicas, and there are also things of sentimental value here that if they break, they cannot be replaced.
Yeah.
Like one-of-a-kind mementos and stuff like that. So my room is a very sacred space to me. But recently, I had come into my room, and now I know some people are going to roll their eyes, but I enjoy collecting Funko Pops of like my favourite characters. And I have a President Loki, to any of the Loki fans out there. And he was on a stand, because obviously where they've got big heads, without the stand they topple over. But I'd come into the room, he had somehow gone off of my high shelf and was then standing on my TV cabinet facing my TV, but he was standing perfectly without his stand. His stand was actually then on the floor.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, there is no way that by coincidence you've managed to fall off the top shelf, land perfectly upright, and not be attached to the stand that's on the floor.
Yeah, and bear in mind, you then called me on video call and then tried to debunk it in a way where it might have been like just a sudden push, like a little just fall, and it wouldn't stand on its own at all.
No.
Like it kept falling over.
Not when I tried to do it myself, but I'd walked in and I'd found it perfectly upright.
Yeah. Just insane.
But obviously that wasn't the only incident I had. Literally then, I think it was the day after, I turned around and said to you that I have a chessboard that I have out on display in my room as well. And a lot of my chess pieces on the board had been moved as if the game had started to play. Like someone had tried to start playing a game of chess. Now do bear in mind that obviously I did go to everyone in my household and I was like, has anyone been in my room? Has anyone touched anything? Everyone said, well, no. I think on one of the days, no one else was actually home. We were all out for the day. So there was like literally no one at home. But then when I had come back, my chessboard had been played with and was in a mid-chess game. And I'm just like, huh? Because even though I have a chessboard, I personally do not yet fully know how to play chess. So therefore it is currently out for aesthetic purposes rather than me actually playing it.
Yeah, because it's not like a normal chessboard. It is actually characters from Labyrinth. It's not an actual chessboard like where you have a rook or anything else. And I was researching while I was on the phone with Shan, trying to figure out what these pieces could mean.
Exactly, yeah.
Because like it was like a rook, a pawn, and a knight that had moved. And I was trying to figure out like all the different ways that they could be moved. I was trying to figure it out for her, and there was no like message that could have been put out to it from it at all, apart from the knight looking at the king and queen.
Yeah, so I literally have no idea, but that had all happened in the space of a couple of days, and I couldn't fathom what was going on.
And then obviously because we're both witches, I literally said, has something negative come in, and like has it been broken, like because you have obviously your sigils. And she double checked and one of them was actually broken.
Yeah, one of my sigils was broken. I do have sigils that I keep kind of on my door frames and my windows, just as like kind of my entry points. But yeah, basically it was a case of like one of my sigils had broken. It had been somewhat like rubbed off. So but once everything had been kind of reinstalled back to its like original form of glory, haven't had anything happen since.
No, not really, but it has been. It was a weird couple of days for you, I will say.
Yeah, I think I'm ready for a respite at this point.
Yes.
But you've had quite a few other stories to tell. And
these are also recent for me and very personal because it is very fresh and new. So my great uncle had passed away. He was very ill anyway, and I kind of sensed it as well. Like, he came to, like, I had my 21st. You knew him as well. You kind of met him at my birthday. He was on oxygen and everything else. And I kind of looked at him and I was like, okay, like, this might be the last time I actually see you. Because it did feel like that. And it weren't like, oh, just the fear. And I got a call from my dad. Bear in mind, I was more worried about my health at that point because I had a UTI. Sorry guys, but I had a UTI. I was more worried about that. Got home, my partner went off to go to work. I went back home, walked through my gate, got a phone call from my dad, and I'm like, oh, hi dad, and I could hear his voice shaking, and I was on the phone with him, and he obviously announced that my uncle had died, and I just burst into tears and everything. So another important part of this story as well is that my great uncle used to be a paratrooper, which was the guys in the army that would jump out of planes and go to different, obviously back in the 70s, he would go to different places. And all of a sudden I'm on the phone and a robin jumped out of nowhere, and I literally started bursting out more and crying and everything. This is obviously flying bird. Obviously robins, I don't know if it's like everywhere else, but robins are definitely in the UK a very big sign of someone that has passed as well. Because they're the ones that actually come closer to you. But yeah, he came to me and my dad came to pick me up because we were going to go to my nan because it was her brother, and a little white feather flew down from the ground, like from nowhere. There's no birds in this sky at the moment, and all of a sudden a white feather started flowing down, which is also another symbol for us that someone obviously that has passed has come near. So it was insane to even think about and seeing these things, and it was nice to know that he was there, and it was quite bittersweet in a way.
No, obviously I had a very similar experience. Obviously when my dad passed, like a good 6 years ago at this point. Once again, he was involved actually in the Navy, in the Merchant Navy. He was very kind of like into the war history and stuff like that because he had joined like when he was 17. So, you know, underhanded, underage kind of thing going on there, but we don't talk about that.
Same with my uncle.
But yeah, obviously our garden had never grown poppies before. Never. No poppies. We were kind of more like pansies and
bluebells.
Yeah, you know, like the very pretty flower types. But after my dad passed, like not even like a group of poppies, but just like one singular red poppy had just full on bloomed in our back garden, and it was at the highest point of our back garden as well because we had like a mini hill, and just on top of that hill was a little red poppy, and I was just like, wow, okay. I was like, that is like insane to think about that. And it's just like the timing, it makes you question coincidental or not about like stuff like that happening.
Exactly that. And if there's other people that don't understand what a red poppy symbolises here, it's to symbolise people that have died in war and everything. But they still are used for like soldiers that have obviously come out of the army and have passed away as well afterwards. So it's a mix of both of them. It's like a remembrance thing for us.
Yeah, it's a general like remembrance symbol. But obviously the red poppy after his service became his favourite flower to exist anyway. So when that had bloomed, I was just like, okay,
yeah,
I see you. Which, yeah, it was kind of like, it was heartwarming. But yeah, I think I'm personally out of stories. I think that's all the stories I've had so far.
I've got plenty more, but we're running out of time for how many I actually have.
Yes, we'd be here an hour later.
Yeah, we wanted to get the personal ones out, especially the most recent ones as well. And obviously, if you want to keep up with our ghostly stories and creepy ones.
And then, of course, you have to join the spooky family. Once again, our episodes can be found on podcast, on Spotify, YouTube, TikTok. You can find probably some of our reels on Instagram, or you can go over to Facebook.
Yeah, we're on pretty much all social medias at the moment.
Yeah, so whatever media platform you are listening or watching on, please, if you have the time, do what your platform asks. Give us like a little subscribe or a follow, or add us to your library. It'd be much appreciated.
Join our spooky little cult and family.
We'd also like to obviously hear your personal ghost stories in the comments. It'd be quite interesting to see kind of everyone else's supernatural encounters.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how personal it is. If you want to say it, say it.
We will be obviously watching them all, but it's just so that we can see kind of how everyone else is also experiencing signs, symbols, and all the spooky stuff that we have experienced over the years.
100%. Whether it's seeing figures, smelling, seeing things in your dream, we want to know.
Or things just randomly moving by themselves.
Or that.
But until next time,
take it easy, guys.
ciao.
Bye.